Okay, today we're going to be multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. That's our title for today. And we're going to start with example 1. And we're going to do 3/4 times -1/2. And I started with one that has a negative and a positive, so we can review our rules for multiplying negatives and positives. And a positive times a negative is a negative. So we know our answer is going to be negative. Okay? And we're going to take 3/4 and we're multiplying it times 1/2. Now when I do that, I can put those together and I can say, right over here, that is 3 times 1 over 4 times 2. And I'm going to leave that negative out there so I know that my answer is negative. Now, if you recall, the other day I was factoring things, I was reducing things, and I was showing you how you could write the numerator as 2 factors and the denominator as 2 factors. Okay, now, I know that you know that answer is -3/8. Right? And what I want you to do is keep in mind for the next problem that when we see these factors and we multiply them together, if there was a common factor that I could divide out, which there's not here, but if there was, instead of dividing it out after I multiply, I could go ahead and divide it out right here where I can see them broken down. So let me do the next example to show you. But this one is easy. It's -3/8. Okay, so example number 2, I'll show you where we're going to go with the canceling thing. Okay, so this time I have 1/4 times 4/5. Now, I just went with 2 positives, so the answer is going to be positive. I just wanted to get one of those out there just so you could see a negative times a positive. So the answer is going to be positive. But now when we look at this, we're going to write this as 1 times 4, because when you're multiplying, you multiply straight across, numerators and denominators. And I guess I could have said that up there. I didn't. But I think you guys know that we multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So now when I multiply this one, I can see that I've got a 4 factor in the numerator and denominator. Now, I'm going to go ahead and multiply it together just to show you, okay, that that's 4 over 20. But what I could do, if you look at that, there's a common factor of 4 that I can divide out, correct? Okay, well, that common factor is right here. So why not, while I can see it visually, I can see that common factor, instead of dividing it out here, why don't I divide it out here? So what I'm going to do is say, okay, I'm going to divide out this 4, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to divide it out by putting a little slash through it. And when I divide 4 by 4, what do I get? 1. Now back down here, I'm going to divide out a 4. Well, I'm going to just divide it out here, so I'm going to cancel it out. When I divide by 4 by 4, what do I get? I get 1. Okay? So now, when I multiply straight across, and I'm going to take this off, and we're going to multiply straight across, and we'll have 1 times 1, because I divided out that 4. So 1 times 1 is 1. And now I'm going to do 1 times 1 down here, or 1 times 5, which is 5. So that 4 that was in the numerator and denominator, when I divide it out, I can divide it out of the numerator, divide it out of the denominator, because what is 4 over 4? It's 1. Another way to look at that is to say 1 times 4 and 5 times 4. And what I did there was just rearrange the 4 times 5. And now you can see it a little bit better. Because if I can put these together as 2 fractions, I can take them apart as 2 fractions. So that's 1/5 times 4/4. Well, what's 4/4? It's 1. So this is the same thing as 1/5 times 1, which is 1/5. And that's the same answer I get up here. So this 4 over 4 is really 4 over 4 is 1. And so I divide the 4 out there and get a 1, divide out the 4 out there and get a 1, and then just 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, let's try a different problem. I'm going to go to example 3. 2 more examples to do. We're going to say negative 15 times 2/3. Okay, now, I don't have a fraction here, I've got a whole number. But we know that we can take a whole number and write it as a fraction. And we don't have to worry about common denominators because we're multiplying. So I can just say that that's negative 15 over 1. Negative 15 divided by 1 is negative 15. So I haven't changed anything. All I've done is put that as over 1. I'll put it in red so you can see the original problem was negative 15 times 2/3. In fact, I'm going to rewrite it like this so you can keep the original problem and say, okay, that's equal to negative 15 over 1 times 2/3. And now we're going to multiply straight across. But before we do that, do you see a factor in 15? If I rewrite that as negative 15 times 2 over 1 times 3, which I really don't need to put the 1, but that's okay. Negative 15, can I break that down into 2 factors? Absolutely. I can break that down into negative 3 times 5 times 2 over 1 times 3. Now notice I've got a 3 factor right here that I can divide out, or I can say that's equal to 1. So if I've got 1 in the numerator, I can divide it out, divide 3 out of there and I get 1. I've got to divide 3 out of here and get 1. I can only do that if I have common factors in the numerator and denominator. So over here, what I could have done is said, instead of breaking this down, if I know that that's 5 times 3, then let's just divide out the 3. Whoops, wait a minute, before I do that. Let's make this, well no, let's just divide out the 3. Divide out the 3 here. When I divide out a factor of 3 here, I've got a 5 left over. I've divided 3 out of both of these. So now I've got 5 times 2 is, and that's negative 5 times 2, so that's going to be negative 10. And 1 times 1 is 1, so my answer is negative 10. You could also look at that as saying that that's negative 15 times 2 over 3, which is negative 30 over 3. And negative 30 divided by 3 is negative 10. Same thing, because when I'm dividing 3 out of 30, well, here I'm dividing 3 out. There's the 30. I'm just dividing 3 out of this factor, and here's my 10. There's my 10 right there. So it's the same thing. I like this way better because you can see actually what you're canceling out. The factors are canceling out. And when you're finished, you've got a fraction that you can then reduce to simplest form if you need to. If not, then you've just got your fraction left over, whereas this one won't work that cleanly. Let's try one more. And that was example number 3. I think I forgot to put that on there. So this is example number 4. This time we have 3 times 7/8. When we do 3 times 7/8, that's going to be 3 over 1 times 7 over 8, which is the same thing as 3 times 7 over 1 times 8. Now, when I do that, is there any common factors? This breaks down into 2 times 2 times 2, but there's no 2's up here. So I can just go ahead and multiply straight across and get 21/8. Now, if I was to change that into a mixed number, which we need to do since that's an improper fraction, I'm going to say how many times does 8 go into 21? If you have to, come over here and do a division problem. Do 21 divided by 8. That's what this line means. Remember, you divide from top to bottom, top down. So 21 is the dividend, 8 is the divisor. And so how many times does 8 go into 21? It goes twice. 2 times 8 is 16. And when I subtract, I get a 5. So I take my remainder and put it over the divisor. So my answer here is going to be 2 and 5/8. Okay, and then your homework is page 124, and you should have put this on your handout or on your notes, okay, along with your name. Okay, name goes up here, period, date, and then the homework is page 124, and you're going to do 11 through 17 odd. Okay, so that's only 4 problems. And then, 11, 13, 15, 17. Yeah, it's only 4 problems. And you also need to study for your quiz tomorrow. And your quiz is over adding and subtracting fractions and adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Good luck.